Welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you.
Welcome to Simply Indie.
Thank you.
Tell us who you are, a little bit about yourself, please, and about the title of your film and what it's about.
Okay. So my name is Zoe Sherinian, and I'm an ethnomusicologist at the University of Oklahoma.
Boomer Sooner.
Sooner.
Yeah.
And I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I kind of talk about myself as a scholar filmmaker and also an activist filmmaker. So the film is called Sakthi Vibrations, and it takes place in southern India in the state of Tamil Nadu. And it's about a folk art center run by two Catholic nuns that are Tamils, they're Indians. And their whole intent is to take highly oppressed women and use the folk arts as a means to build self-esteem in them. Okay, so in a nutshell. So it's really a development program, but it's founded in the folk arts. So it's not, they're also doing microeconomic training in, say, basket weaving and tailoring and things like that. But with oppressed people, and these women are quadruply oppressed. They're Dalits, which means it's the kind of politicized term for people that used to be called untouchables or outcasts. They're women, so even more oppressed. They're poor, and they're all high school dropouts.
Oh wow. Okay.
So this is a program that's sort of an alternative high school. It's a way for them to get like their GED, right, to pass their exams. And some of them actually have gone on to college. But again, it's founded in the folk arts. So they're using the folk arts of the same community. I'll call it the Dalit community. And they're reclaiming it as positive. So the folk arts as the people were considered really degraded and untouchable and polluting. The drum itself that they play, which is called the parai, is considered polluting to upper caste people. It's played in funerals, it's made out of cowhide, it's just generally inauspicious. And so they're totally flipping that script and reclaiming the drum as positive.
That's great.
And then the identity of the people themselves, right? So they're seeing themselves as positive in this process of learning how to drum and dance.
That's so cool.
So in a nutshell.
Yeah, I didn't realize when I saw the film that they were high school dropouts, right?
Yeah.
And then they're going to this place and the nuns are helping them. Phenomenal. So what inspired you to do this specifically?
Right. Well, I had studied the drum, the parai, in another context of my dissertation and working on my dissertation project, which was on indigenized Christianity in India. Okay. And so Christian theologian composer is using the drum in services, again, as a way to identify theology and music, Christian music, with the village, with untouchable people. Like this is liberation theology. So I discovered the drum there, and I'm a drummer. I've been playing stick drums since I was 11 years old, and I studied in college and all that. I'm a professor of music, and so drumming is what I do.
Right.
And so I was really attracted to this instrument because it's a frame drum. It's held on your shoulder, and it's played with two sticks.
Yeah.
Right, so lots of the classical drums of India are played with hands, and I'm like, okay, sticks, I can do this really easily, right? So I had so much desire to play it. And I did my first documentary on male drummers in the village, and studied with them while I was making this documentary, learned how to play the drum. And I also worked with some NGOs, including this group, the Sakthi Folk Arts Center. And I decided after making that film, where I had to really focus just on the men, that I really wanted to do a film just on women. So I was inspired to look at really the intersections of caste and gender and the oppressions, intersectional oppressions. And also I just totally believed in this project and saw the incredible work that these nuns were doing, and knew that this model needed to get out there to the world. And just also the message that caste is still alive in India, it's still practiced in India. There is a cultural movement going on where they're using the folk arts to fight the caste system, and that starts with the internal self-esteem of the oppressed person. So that was my inspiration.
Your inspiration.
Right,
That's so cool. I love that. So what about challenges? Tell us a little bit about what are some of the crazy things that you had to overcome to do that? And I know you did it in chunks too, right? Going to India, coming back, and
that was intentional.
Okay.
To kind of follow this class of girls from the first day that they came to the center to their graduation and their ability to perform incredibly. But I think the challenge for me as an academic ethnographer, right? We go to be with the people, we study music with them, we're doing ethnography, and usually, we do some filming maybe, but to make a film, to be the producer, the director, and running a crew of people, also doing sound, learning how to do sound in the process, to have both of those hats on at the same time was very challenging, right? Because usually we want to be participating, learning, working, with the people who are playing music at the same time. And here I was behind the camera, or kind of doing more directing, and working with people that I hadn't worked with before in terms of making films at all. That I hire all of my crew, and not necessarily knowing what the vibe was going to be like on the ground in India, because I worked with 2 women who came from America, and one of them is Indian American, right? And so she's had experience, but the other women hadn't, and so people deal with getting sick, they deal with culture shock and all of these things. So there's the whole running the crew in that way was challenging. But also, what was really an interesting thing that I learned a lot about, because I have no training in making films.
Okay.
And I have lots of trainings in anthropology and doing field work and that kind of thing, and I've used cameras my whole career. But the challenge came when working with these 2 women who had been really trained in narrative filmmaking, right? So their first question was, who's our subject? Who's our single subject?
Right.
Right, like, who are we focusing on? And what I was getting from the collaboration that I had with the sisters, particularly the elder sister, was that do not focus on any one individual, because you will mess up our program of trying to create community among these girls who just have come in and are really, again,
and confidence, right? If we pick one above the other.
Exactly, you'll have a sense of competition, right? And so that, to try, and I didn't necessarily I totally got the message, but I didn't understand sort of what was going on with their vision versus my vision of it. And that also, when you're making ethnographic film, you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
With documentary, you don't, but even with ethnography, you don't know what the story's going to be, and it reveals itself. You have to be very patient. You have to do a lot of, I think we have 100 hours of film, and and then what do you take from that? Right. So I think that was the greatest challenge, and I actually ended up switching a crew in the middle and working with a young woman named Varsha Yeshwantakumar, who was just fabulous. And we just were like 2 peas in a pod. There's a great scene in there where the girls are, because this is participatory video too. The team at the beginning taught these girls how to make films themselves.
Okay.
And so they have a camera, and we're filming them with their camera, and all of a sudden they turn it on us. And then I see that this is happening, and I come back behind the camera, and we're going back and forth and talking to them. That was really fun.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
It's a great shot. Yeah.
So I have a sub question to the challenge, because I'm curious. I've been a couple of places out of the United States, but only for a week or 2, or not for a long time, definitely not back to do something like this. So how are you received, like, as an American or as a U.S. citizen, and going into somebody else's culture? How did that go?
Well, so first of all, I'm very aware of my privilege as an American, as a white passing person. There are then issues with being a woman in India, and having worked in my first film with a totally male crew, and then, having like a little power struggle there. But for me, going in with my privilege, the thing is, I've been going to India for 33 years.
Wow, yeah.
I speak the language fairly fluently. I speak Tamil. And so there's something about when you meet new people and you speak to them in their own language, and Tamil particularly, they're like, wow, you have so much respect and love for our culture and language that you have been willing to spend so much time studying it and learning about it, and transmitting knowledge, writing books, about our language and this thing that we love so much. And so there's just this open-heartedness with Tamil people that, so I can't speak for everywhere in India, but for the Tamil people I've worked with, my enthusiasm, I think, is met with their enthusiasm and openness and love, and like, come home and have dinner with us, and yes, let's eat together.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So
that's great.
So that, and also with the drumming specifically, because like when I went to the village to first meet the men that I worked with, I had a folklorist who was a dean of an arts college come with me, and he was a relative of theirs.
Okay.
And so again, privilege, all of that. But then I took a lesson with them.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, she's got some chops here.
Right.
She can handle this, and she's a good student, and okay, we'll take her.
Yeah.
So there's a musical conversation going on too. And ultimately, I think in ethnomusicology, one of the things we believe is that the basis for relationships is playing music together. So that's the beauty.
Yeah, here, there, everywhere,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason why people say, right, that music is the universal language. So our last question here is just, what do you want your audience to get out of this? If they're sitting in there, like, how do you want them to feel? And do you feel like you got that from this viewing?
Yeah. I mean, it just, the reactions from different types of people has been amazing. There was a second generation young Indian American woman who like saw this once and cried and like, wow, I never expected that, right?
Yeah.
But so first of all, there's a message. There's a message about, again, this model that if you're going to work with oppressed people in any kind of development project, use the arts, use their arts, empower their arts, come from their knowledge base, their worldview.
Right.
That's, I think, the first thing, and that I wanted. I would love lots of development people and economics professors or whoever scholars to see this film and understand that model. And it's not my model, it's the nuns' model.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And then and their approach to pedagogy, to teaching music without, never saying you're making a mistake, you're doing it wrong. Just the way they reinforce the positive process for these girls. So that's I think but also that the casteism still exists in India, and that there are people who are fighting it with the arts. The drum is a weapon. It's a cultural weapon of empowerment, of liberation.
Yeah,
so.
and what better weapon?
Yes,
What
yes.
better weapon?
Drumming our liberation.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. It was
Thank
great
you
talking
for
to you.
having us.
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
having me
We would love to.
And my crew, Adam Ropp, was here, and
Yes.
shout out to everybody who worked on the film.
Yeah, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for letting us show your film.